Yes, that is the signal that it is the Collision review that is starting today on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. Hello, it's me, Mr. Warren Hayes, and I'm accompanied by the first dog of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show thing, Juno, who has a brand new squeaky toy that I purchased for her yesterday because she was tearing through her squeaky toys. Got her one of these Korg things, these Korg deals, right? I'm sure many dog owners know about them. You know, there's these extra sturdy, like super strong dog toys, and it's in the shape of a big bone, of a big orange one. I'm not gonna take it away from her because she's gonna think, you know, it's time to play. Despite the fact that she's trying to get my attention nonetheless. But look, it's the Collision review. It's the Collision review. I'm going to be talking about the November 4 edition of Collision in the year of our Lord 2023. A much more soothed Warren Hayes, much more calm today as opposed to the previous time we sat down to talk to each other, which was on the Collision review, the Dynamite review, this week. Because look, this is the great dichotomy between Dynamite and Collision. The two shows are different. They feel different. They're put together different. They're not the same. And that's their greatest strengths, and it also highlights their weaknesses at the same time. And you know, there was not even a fraction of the stuff that made me lose my mind on Friday. On Wednesday, Thursday when I recorded the review, of course. No, I didn't do that. No, I recorded on Wednesday. I'm so confused in my timelines. I recorded look, it doesn't matter. We're getting to unnecessary specifics, and I'm digging myself into a hole on these unnecessary specifics. I just want to do this. I want to talk about, a good little show. Nothing memorable, but not boring by any chance. Not bad either. Just some good little TV wrestling. One would call this a transitional episode of Collision, leading us into different pastures, heading into different directions. There was a lot of stuff happening on this show. A lot of things were going on. And you had some pretty good wrestling to top of it. I'm not a difficult man. I'm not a picky man. I just know what I like. And I think it's important to be able to put that into words and convey that. No matter how passionately I do it, I always like to think I'm fair about it, and I think, I think Juno agrees with me right now that I'm a very fair and balanced in my analysis. People got upset. Some people got upset at my thoughts, my very, very impassioned thoughts of this Wednesday's Dynamite. But otherwise, I feel it was very well received. I even got some messages in private from folks who appreciated what I put forth and how I criticize things and how I analyze things. And look, I don't want to spend my time doing a post-mortem on the Collision show of a Dynamite review, but I think I can take a moment to say that criticism is important, and criticism does not mean hatred. Criticism always, real criticism always comes from a place of love. So if you act off of that, I think you're fine, and I think you will always find the balance and the situations to convey your points and make what you feel come across as valid. How about that? But let's get to this show. November 4, 2023, as we mentioned, from the Intrust Bank Arena in Wichita, Kansas, 3,026. According to WrestleTix, the number of tickets distributed for the show, we just barely made it over 3,000. Again, these are not great. Pat yourself. We can sit here and get excited when AEW makes 5,000 people, makes an attendance for a taping at 5,000 people, but that's not a good thing. It's not something, it's still not good when you're hitting up big arenas, and I'm not saying the Intrust Bank Arena is, but when you're hitting up big arenas and you can barely fill a quarter of the building, it's still bad, especially from where we were some time ago. Not that long ago, actually. Anyway, 3,026 people in attendance for this show. We got the cold opens. We're going to talk about the cold opens this week because there's two things. One thing, of course, significantly happened, but the other thing, we had FTR in the cold open, right? And look, I've got nothing to point to. I've got no reality to, no details, no specifics. I got nothing, no reports, nothing. I just have a gut instinct here that I feel like FTR are kind of zoned out. I don't think this is the FTR that we had last year, or even the year before that were biting into things, or even earlier this year when, with CM Punk and CM Punk coming back and Collision starting, they feel much more muted. I don't want to say subdued, muted, right? They feel a little, this cold open, where usually Dax would, regale us about tales about his daughter and his family. Now it's just like, yeah, we're in the main event, top guy's out. Okay. Isn't that, previously we'd have proper promos, he'd get some stuff off. I made a joke about the family and whatnot, but he would cut a promo. Dash would be a little more invigorated. And I find it shows in their demeanor when they come to the ring and once they're in the ring, doing the shake hand things. We'll talk about that too, but when they're doing the shake hand things with LFI, and it all just feels like they're going through motions, doing what they're told, as opposed to being into it. I don't know. A lot of, bit of a boo-boo attitude here, I'm feeling. I can't be alone. Then we do the other cold opens, and then Swerve Strickland has his cold open, and he gets attacked by AR Fox as it happens. I like this. This is good. Keeps you on your toes. You're like, holy shit, okay. Means you should watch the show from the start, right? Not that they should do this every week, but this notion of, the unexpected can happen at any given moment on this show is phenomenal. So they jumped in. When I mean the production, they jumped into the match right after the proper, the proper entrance song stuff, and we get into the match where AR Fox is beating up Shane Strickland right to the ring. And you know what? I like this match. I thought it was a good TV match. And he's in control with, he being AR Fox, he's in control with a lot of high-flying offense, a lot of high-flying moves. He's playing the hits, dives to the floor. Strickland gets in control for a while, and there's a lot of great near falls in this match between the two. But it's Swerve who gets the win with the Swerve Stomp, and I thought this was very good. Good showcase for Fox. Again, kind of feel like you can't help but feel like whatever booking malpractice happened to kick him out of the Mogul Embassy is legitimately going to pigeonhole him in this spot where he's going to come across like he might get something done, but will eventually never, ever win a big one. Like, as we used to call them back in the day, he's a JTTS, right? A jobber to the stars. That's all he'll ever be. And it's a shame because I think he's got he's got the talent and the dynamics to rise above that station. And Swerve, just being a perfectly slimy heel as usual. I don't know. I keep talking about how fantastic I think he is. I'll pump the brakes on it this week because I feel like it's a broken record. But to me, his ceiling is world champion, and he'd be a breath of fresh air up there at the top for multiple reasons. Trust me, I'd be very excited for Swerve to be up there. I think he'd bring something very different to the table, and we saw that he can get the big match. We can get the big match out of him. We saw that at Wrestle Dream, and we're probably going to see it again at Full Gear. After the match, the entirety of the Mogul Embassy who were there, sans Brian Cage, they were all coming in to attack Fox. So FTR jumped in, then Ricky Starks and Big Bill came in, then LFI came in, and then that chased off the heels, and FTR tried to shake hands with LFI, but they wouldn't do it. And in the meantime, up in the rafters, you had the House of Black who were watching this, all four of them. We'll get back to that in a while. We get some pre-tapes from MJF and the Bullet Club Gold, specifically Jay White. MJF basically telling Jay White that he's making him into a star. Just check Google Trends. And meanwhile, Jay White, said, use the words I love to use. I told you so, which is one of his aggravatingly signature promo parts from when he was in New Japan. And they'll be back on Dynamite this week. Yes, indeed they will. Kip Sabian is backstage being interviewed. He's announcing that he has a new group with the WorkHorsemen. And they are and he's looking to get some revenge on Mark Briscoe, who attacked him a couple of weeks ago. So he's like, get yourself some partner. WorkHorsemen are great. Everyone says they're the most underrated team. Well, not everyone, but commentary was putting over. They're probably the most underrated team in AEW. Is like, give them some wins. Give them because JD Drake, Anthony Henry, they're fantastic. They're just absolutely fantastic. They're a tremendous tag team. They should be doing more. Anyway. Instead, we're going to get the Kingdom defeating Brixton, Nash, and Jameson McGregor. They come out with Roderick Strong, and they're doing the stuff. It doesn't matter. After the match, Roderick Strong pops out of his wheelchair to lay out one of the guys, and then he's like, "Oh, my neck." Look, all right, you all know how I feel about this stuff. But then we start getting into stuff that I can sink my teeth into. Then Mark Briscoe, he cuts a fantastic little promo backstage. Good segment with Lexi Nair here. And he's looking for his two partners. FTR come up and they say, "Brother, we'll do double duty for you. We're best buds." Mark Briscoe's like, "Fellas, I love you, but you got to focus on your stuff. I'll find myself two people." Lexi asks who those two people are, and he says, "I cannot divulge that information in the most Mark Briscoe way possible." Just tremendous. Then we move on to Darby Allin defeating Lance Archer. Of course, you know the layout of this match. Darby Allin eats shit for the entirety of the match and gets a sneak win on Lance Archer. But it's good to see Lance Archer coming out, not in Texas, doing stuff, and he's with Jake Roberts again. And, Darby has some hope spots throughout it all. There's this great spot where Lance Archer chokeslams Darby on the apron. And, a fully extended, I will carry you around chokeslam kind of thing. Just good stuff. Allin pulls off a win with a top rope sunset bomb. Like I said, it's good. Good match. Fun time. We've seen this Darby Allin match before, if that makes sense. I don't think there's necessarily anything. I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with that. It's just, we're not reinventing the wheel here. After the match, Jake Roberts has a mic, and he says he didn't come to this fight with only one piece of artillery. And he introduces the Righteous, with whom he seems to be aligned now. Vincent said something about, I don't know. It doesn't matter. But he came out snapping his fingers. Jake says he knows these guys are able to get the job done. It's like, well, when it comes to AEW main roster, main programming, they haven't been getting much jobs done, period. And what does that say about Lance Archer? Anyway, all of this is enough distraction for Lance Archer to sneak up on Darby and land the blackout on him. So looks like we've got a little collision program here, I guess. Because now we've got the Sting. What are we doing? Are we setting stuff? Maybe we're setting stuff up for post Full Gear. Maybe we're just doing a little collision TV angle here, which we've seen before, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with TV only angles. Not everything needs to be a big pay-per-view to do. Will this have any tie-in with Sting's retirement? I don't know. But look, the Righteous and Lance Archer and look, Jake Roberts and the Righteous work, right? That's a hand-in-hand type of connection. I'm okay with that. Then we have another group friend session with Chris Statlander, Willow Nightingale, and Sky Blue. I don't know what they're doing with this. I really don't know what they're doing with this. And Sky Blue has the charisma of a shoe. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing with this. It's all very vague and redundant. What is this, like week 3 of, we've requested time so that we could, air our friendship woes out in public. Now they're all reconciling because Sky Blue did the right thing and she turned on Julia Hart by, spray painting. It's not spray painting, but misting her. Couldn't even do it on the face. Sort of, hit the, upper chest, lower chin area. Anyway. They're all friends now, apparently. That's the takeaway. We get the Acclaimed 69-day celebration. Look, just in case you're new here to the show, because there are new people coming in. Like I said, I get the freakazoids angry, but somehow I get some more and more people agreeing with me and popping in and joining and subscribing and following, and thank you and hello and welcome. So just to reiterate, because I've said this multiple times, but just in case you're new, the Acclaimed stuff is not for me. I will always point to them, nonetheless, as being a true AEW success story. 2 guys were thrown together in a tag team, 2 singles guys were the tag team that Tony just threw together as a tag team and was like, make it work. And they did. And they got themselves over organically. and you know, the whole thing connected with the audience tremendously, feud with the Guns and so on and so forth. And they became an extremely popular act, and good for them. And I mean, I cannot sit here and tell you this, you know, this stuff doesn't work. It works. It just doesn't work for me. So when I see a 69-day celebration here, and I'm like, oh, I kind of roll my eyes, and then we get 69 balloons in the ring and balloons. I'm like, my God. And what are we doing? And then we get the streamers, and we're doing a whole celebration for this. Whereas, you know, Kenny Omega's longest reign as champion was barely even touched on. You know, it was just a passing thing to set up a match. It just goes to show you, yeah, to me, this is just an indication as to where their heads are at these days backstage in creative or whatever you want to call it. If we're going to do a whole thing around 69 days of champion, and I get it. I get it. It's he 69. Hoo. I get it. But we're gonna do a whole thing around that. But you know, MJF coming after the record for the longest reign as AEW World Heavyweight Champion is a blip. And between us all, it is significantly more important than this. You know, not saying that they shouldn't do this. I'm just juxtaposing it. I'm giving you a what I feel is an example of where creative's head is at backstage. If we're going to plan ahead for they've been talking about this for a couple of weeks now, 69-day celebration, whereas, you know, a significant milestone in the history of the AEW World Championship and a significant milestone for the current World Heavyweight Champion, or just World Champion. There's no weight classes in AEW, Warren. These are all things that are, you know, that's something that's just like tossed aside, right? It's just like, oh, it's just a little detail, where it is significantly more important. Anyway, so that all being said, knowing that the Acclaimed stuff is not for me, this didn't do anything for me, and it annoyed me more than anything else. We get an MJF clip, we get streamers, there's a trophy. They're doing a trophy for this. Then Dalton Castle and the boys interrupt with a very awkward segment. Very, very, very awkward. I was shocked at how all these highly charismatic individuals in the ring, because Dalton, Bowens, Billy Gunn, tremendously charismatic people, all in the ring, and we're having one of the most awkward segments. Sitting there going, what is going on exactly? It all leads to a match, which really wasn't any good. It's all right. It wasn't good. The match being Billy Gunn and the Acclaim versus Dalton and the boys for the trios titles. And anyway, it's all right. Let's move on. At least it was short. Andrade El Idolo is backstage with Lexi Nair, who asks him if he's put any more consideration into CJ Perry's offer. And he said last week, look, this is my business and no one else's, but next week I'll give her an answer. So here comes the Miro Andrade promo, folks. Program, excuse me. That's coming up. Andrade's not a great promo, and it had nothing to do with his English. I'm not criticizing his English. His English is fine. I just think, I am a businessman. It's like, there's a reason in WWE they paired him up with Zelina Vega. Remember that? That was truly a high point of his career. That was truly a high point of his career, and Zelina's as well. God damn, it was so good. Just tremendous stuff back in NXT. You remember when NXT was good? Remember when there was true value? Anyway, Mark Briscoe comes out with his partners Dustin, Rhodes, and Keith Lee to defeat Kip Sabian and the WorkHorsemen. Didn't they call themselves like the Sex Stallions or something? It doesn't matter. Good little match anyway. I thought, Mark Briscoe here played Ricky Morton the entirety of the match but the heels did some fantastic, work. Especially JD Drake. I thought he carried the offense for his team. He and Anthony Henry are just tremendous athletes and tremendous pro wrestlers. Just tremendous pro wrestlers. And it was a good little match for what it was. Bit of a glorified squash, but Mark Briscoe did most of the work for his team. There seems to be already a little dissent with Kip on the heel side, where Kip tags himself in when the WorkHorsemen seem to have things in control, and they're like, "Okay, brother, what the fuck?" Dustin plays the hits. Mark Briscoe dives to the floor and does the froggy bow for the win. That's all there is to it. Come back from a commercial, and Mark Briscoe is being interviewed by Lexi Nair backstage. And he says, he hasn't been around, but he's been watching on his 70-inch plasma screen Jay White, who he's beaten up multiple times in tag team action. And he says, look, let's have ourselves a match on Wednesday, because you're going around with this fake gold. Put up your title shot at Dynamite on Wednesday. You and me. I'm like, all right. See, this Wednesday's Dynamite is actually shaping up to be a lot better than a lot of... But look, I talked about this. If you're a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel and you join me for the members-only streams that we do, we've already talked about this amongst us members. And I want to make sure I put this out there. There are always circumstances... let me say this again. Let me start this over again. It has happened in the past that Tony Khan has put on a subpar Dynamite that would awake the ire of people like me, and he would receive a tremendous amount of criticism for, or the show just wasn't any good. So what he would do, what is the following week, he'd just stack up the Dynamite with tremendous matches, right? That's usually his MO. So what is he doing for this Dynamite this week? After the disaster that was last Dynamite, he's putting MJF and Daniel Garcia in the main event, or at least for the world title, right? He's given us Samoa Joe and Keith Lee. He's given us Mark Briscoe versus Jay White. He's giving us Penta versus Swerve, because we also got that set up. Alex Abrahantes was backstage at some point, and I may have skipped past it. Don't remember when it happened exactly anymore. Sorry. But he set that up with Swerve versus Penta. Look, they're slapping, this is what happens. Got a bad week, comes back, loads up the card. And I'm probably going to finish Dynamite next week, and I'll be like, yeah, this felt like a Dynamite. But then what's going to happen the week after that, and the week after that, and the week after that? It's one thing to put a Band-Aid on. It's another thing to, put polysporin on it and make sure the wound heals up nice and cleanly. And that's more of a long-term thing to do. But I'm not surprised. He's suddenly, prepping this card in advance, getting people excited, putting on big matches, fun matches with people that a lot of us want to see. Not surprised. Putting Mark Briscoe on the card, yeah, that's significant. Willow Nightingale defeats Emi Sakura. I thought this was fine, but I thought the match they had for the Strong Women's title back in September? I can't remember. A couple of months ago. I thought that was better. No commentary was like, this was just as good. No, it really wasn't. It wasn't. It was fine. It was a little weird, actually. Weird, couple of weird spots. The diving crossbody. Not the diving, the low crossbody, I should say. And there was a spot with the legs. And tying up the legs. Just a little weird. Spinebuster and Babe with the power bomb for the win for Willow. Samoa Joe gets interviewed, and then that's where we set up the match with Keith Lee. He is officially now the longest reigning Ring of Honor television champion. And then the main event, FTR and La Facción Ingobernable, represented by Preston, Vance, and Roosh, making his return to active competition in AEW, defeated Ricky Starks, Big Bill, and the Gates of Agony in an 8-man match. This was a fun little main event. Didn't knock my socks off. I haven't heard anyone who got, whose socks were knocked off by this, but solid, well put together, good stuff. I think the highlight of this match was Roosh. Roosh hasn't wrestled in months at this point, and he came out here swinging, both figuratively and literally. A guy who had a point to prove, who wanted to show that he was not all talk, that he was ready to light up this feud. And thank God, I'm kind of thankful for Roosh and this spark that he showed, because this whole thing with FTR feel really, really out of it. They feel there's a disconnect. I'm not feeling the grit. But Roosh is out here and he's throwing fools around and he's working. And I'm a critic of Roosh. You know this, again, if you've listened to anything I've done, since Roosh has joined AEW, I'm always a little wary. He's oftentimes, the smartest guy in the room where, do I have to work here? And this is absolutely a match. This 8-man tag was absolutely a match where Roosh could have absolutely gotten away with minimal offense, minimal bumps. I'm not saying he bumped like a madman. I don't even think he did all that much. Still, smart on his part, but he worked in this match. And he could have absolutely taken the back seat, be like, no, guys, do your thing. No, he came in here with something to prove. He had, I don't know if it's a chip on his shoulder or whatever, but he was fired up. It came across. He was electric. And I was excited for it. Look, he just signed a big money deal with his boss in the back. And he's like, I'm going to show you I'm worth the money, boss, so that you can re-sign me later. Same thing with Drelistico, who wasn't working this match, but, he got signed too. This is what I gleaned from this match. Otherwise, everyone did their part. It was fine, good, well worked. I can't bitch about it. I enjoyed this match. After the match, FTR, once again, they try to shake hands with LFI, and they hit the brakes, they being LFI, of course. And then there's a House of Black promo that pops up on the big screen saying no one cares about FTR anymore. And then the lights come up after the promo, and the House of Black are there behind FTR. They attack, and the Blackpool Combat Club, Claudio and Wheeler Yuta, come in to make the save. Malachi avoids a big swing. Lots of moving parts here for this conclusion of Collision. Again, I have no problems with this show. No significant problems. I thought it was a good little show. Thought it was fine. It's going to be one that I'm going to be relegating to memory very shortly. Once I'm done here, probably. But things progressed. Things happened. Wrestling was fine, was good in some circumstances. I'm not a difficult guy to please. I don't need pay-per-view quality matches. Excuse me. I don't need pay-per-view quality cards every week to say something was good or to keep me satiated. This was fine. I'll be able to move on. Nothing really to recommend. Like, ultimately, you could skip this and you'll be fine. But, you know, you have 2 hours ahead of you. You got, just fire it up. You'll enjoy the first match. For sure. And then you can fast forward. You can pick and choose. You can, there you go. Gonna wrap it up for today. Another delicious, yummy Collision review. I will be back on Tuesday for another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show proper. We're gonna break down the week in events and news. We're gonna be reviewing New Japan Strong's Power Struggle, an eventful show. Lots of neat little things happening, and a match of the year happening on it as well. I'm excited to talk about it. That'll be happening Tuesday. And Impact Power Struggle as well. That's going to be, not Power Struggle, Turning Point. Power Struggle was the New Japan thing, Warren. Turning Point, which we will also be reviewing this week, as well as getting into some nitty gritty on some things happening up and around the world of professional wrestling. But in the meantime, folks, I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. Happy Sunday, everyone, or whenever you're listening to this, and I'll see you next time.